Welcome to the channel. Welcome to our self-sufficient 52-foot greenhouse where we have no electricity, no gas, and no bills. We have solar power running everything. You can see we've got lots and lots of crops coming up in here. Warm season crops, we've got tomatoes, and we've got cold season crops like shards and onions and all types of herbs and stuff. And we're getting ready for our farmers market. So we've got all of these plants in here prepping to go outside. We've got some outside, but we've had some decently cold weather. Last night was about 28 degrees or 27 degrees, and we had a wind chill below that because it was cold last night. We had frost on everything. My vehicle was all frosted over. So keeping all these tomatoes alive is super beneficial to me because we have a lot of time and money invested in all this, and we use our small compost heated greenhouse to push all of our plants into our large greenhouse where we can kind of format them out and keep them in this nice 30% shade cloth where it keeps it protected from that sun and it allows it to harden off in this double layer greenhouse where it's nice and insulated, and it is also compost heated. So as the title states, we heated this greenhouse for about 7 months so far for free, and that is all off of free materials. We're gonna go take a look at our 13 to 14 cubic yard compost pile. And I would say that that compost pile has diminished by about a third. Roughly 4 cubic yards has probably just vanished. You know, it turned into material that broke down and turned into CO2, turned into methane, and turned into nutrients and just compressed. So you can see some mushrooms up on top here. I can just feel and see the heat coming out of here. A little bit of steam on there. So I took some of these bags off, all these leaf bags, because we had a huge storm and it had ripped all of our tarps up. So I just popped one of these, I just rolled this leaf bag off. You can see the steam rolling out of there still. So the compost is sitting right about 90 degrees or so. Yeah, about 90 degrees on there. And that's just right on the top. You can see how massive this pile is. I'm gonna pop this out and we're gonna go check the other side here. So I wanted to check the side in the shade first because I wanted to show that the sun coming up, it's about 9, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun's getting up there. I didn't want everybody to think that I'm just heating up the one side with the sun and actually taking the temps on it. I wanted to show the completely shady side. I pulled a leaf bag off of it to show down in it, and you can see that it's not as warm because this didn't have any leaf bag cover, but it definitely is rising. Cover that up there. You can see that it's coming up. I apologize, it's a little blurry and unfocused, but that temp is rising up there. It's coming up above 80, 82, 83 now. So that is very, very cool because it was about 29 degrees when I came out here this morning. I still see my breath a little bit, and this entire pile was just steaming as the sun started rising. It started steaming off of it. So we're still pulling a little bit of heat off of that pile, and that is all getting transferred into our greenhouse through water and air. This compost pile did fluctuate a bit this winter, but for the most part it was so large that it stayed pretty consistent in the dead center. Now the outer layers is what fluctuated, and that is where our air tubing is. So that air tubing, or this drain tile here, we've got a little bit of extra drain tile and drain tile we use for our furnace there. We've got a wood furnace also, but we relied on our Jean Pain free compost heating to suffice this winter to get us through a polar vortex, negative 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing over this greenhouse, and all the ups and downs of a normal winter. So we had some really cold temperatures, and all of this free compost allowed us to heat our greenhouse through those 7 months and allowed us to grow food and harvest food through the coldest times of the year. How we were doing that was, like I said, pulling water, and we were moving water through this entire compost pile. This whole thing has copper tubing inside of it around a wooden pole in the dead center of it where it is the hottest. And then I took my drain tile and I wrapped it up. I have a video I will link to showing the actual build of this, because this is basically at the end, 7 months later, when we're gonna tear it down. And I will be tearing this down in the next videos and stuff and showing the insides and how we're gonna use it. And we may even make some more compost rings for faster breakdown. Possibly try some methods to get some of this material on the outside, like some of the wood chips and stuff on the outside here that's still a little dry and unbroken down. This came up to about 90 degrees on the outside here too. So within 2 feet of the surface crust, it is 90 degrees in that pile, and that is probably much warmer down in the dead center of it. So pulling that double duty of heating water and heating air off of this one large compost pile was not an easy feat. It took a lot of work to get started. And if you go back to that first video, you can see we used a tractor to fill this up, and I built the whole ring and all of the components by hand. But all of that heavy lifting was done by a tractor because it would have been backbreaking work getting all of this allocated without a nice ramp and a wheelbarrow and a whole crew of guys to help me, because it would have taken quite a while to get 14 cubic yards accumulated with a wheelbarrow. So I really doubled down on the self-sufficiency aspect of the greenhouse heating systems here, because I used all solar power to run all of this and achieve this free heating the entire winter. We used only solar power. We don't have any electricity ran out here, just these 300 watts of power basically. So we have 4 25 watts and then 2 100 watts. That's basically what we ran off the entire winter here to achieve this heating system. You can really see that steam cooking in the sun now. It's drying these leaf bags out. So this whole ring right here, we're going to basically coil all of this up and be taking all of this back out. So we had all that fencing holding another ring. So we had 2 rings. So one ring was to hold all of our wood chips and all of the leaf bags on top to insulate, and then we had a whole ring of leaf bags all the way around. I collected leaf bags for a total of 2 to 3 weeks out of our local town here. So we just ran to town, loaded up our truck, and would come back and dump, and then continue that several times over. So we were able to acquire a ton of free materials from a local tree service by dumping all of these free wood chips. We were able to get all of these leaf bags for absolutely free also. And these leaf bags provided great insulation for this whole pile. You can see this leaf bag ring came all the way around. So this whole entire pile was insulated very well by a 2 to 3 foot gap of leaves, and they started composting as well. All the leaf bags that were on top of the actual pile, they're pretty well composted and pretty well broken down and nasty looking. So we're going to start tearing all of this apart, and that will be the next video, is tearing this down, breaking it down, and showing what's inside and how much it steams when we start ripping it apart here. So what led me to building a Jean Pain heating system? What brought my interest to this? I have had interest in this for quite some time. I've been researching this stuff for 8 to 10 years, trying to get myself a greenhouse. I got that, started heating that little greenhouse. I needed a bigger greenhouse, so I built a bigger greenhouse, needed to heat that. So we built this massive pile, built all these systems. Got all the water unhooked right now because we are going to be getting all our aquaponics set up. We're going to be filling this tank, so I had to kind of switch things around. I'm going to use a different pump, and I've got to split it 3 ways. I'll have 3 tanks up here, so we'll be able to run a whole bunch of aquaponics, and we'll be able to propagate a ton of plants out of just this moving water here. So all of these systems are totally recyclable. We can reuse this year after year. This is where our compost heating water comes in and out. We've got this pump pumping in, and it goes out to our compost, comes back in, runs through the whole floor of the greenhouse, dumps back out. Same thing with our fan. It goes straight down here, goes out, wraps around our compost pile, comes back in, and it's slowly pulsing. Well, it's probably like 80-90 degree air. That feels very warm. So that definitely warmed up with the warmer temperatures breaking. So in the middle of winter, we were seeing about 70 degrees coming out of this air tube. Within 2 feet to 3 feet of the outside, it was about 70 degrees, and that was underneath the insulation. So I would dig the insulation and then check the temps. So it was very, very hard to combat those very cold temperatures in the middle of winter time when the winds are 40 miles an hour plus, and you just don't even want to go outside. But coming out to check on the greenhouse and see that it is still alive and our heat actually worked, oh, that was very satisfying to me. We were able to grow our own food with all of these systems and all of this free energy, all the one-time investments, and I will pound that into the ground. I say that in every video, all of these one-time investments, even down to the wood stove. It's a one-time investment. Hooked it up. It is super nice to be able to come out here when it's cold outside, come inside the greenhouse. There might not be any sun, and it might be 50-55 degrees in the greenhouse first thing in the morning on a very cold day. That's due to our geothermal maple and Jean Pain, continually keeping those ambient temperatures inside the greenhouse. Our outer layers of insulation holding all of those temps also, but it's really nice to be able to warm myself up and make some tea and all that good stuff. So investing in a nice wood stove is also a great idea if you have access to the resources that it requires to fuel one. So on the same note, we started drying our wood chips that we had for our Jean Pain heating, and we started burning our wood chips along with using them for fuel in our Jean Pain heating. So there was a multitude of uses for all of those free wood chips, and I really like to share all of this with everybody because there is so much that can be done for free, because in the Western world we're thinking of waste as being a byproduct and it needs thrown away and just needs to be disposed of, buried, and forgotten about. But a lot of byproducts like our wood chips and a lot of recycled materials that we use on all of our free heating systems and a lot of materials you see in this greenhouse are recycled and reused. So taking a different approach to recycling and waste management can really change a lot of things around the homestead. You have a lot of waste that can be recycled. Everybody should be composting all their organic material. And just like with these free wood chips, picking up on those free resources, and there's all types of farmers willing to get rid of all types of farm waste all the time. So building up a stockpile of those materials and using them on your homestead is also a great resource, and we should be recycling everything we can as opposed to one-time use stuff. So getting all of the systems in place and trying to reuse everything that we possibly can year after year. I am very interested to see what the pile looks like next year. We've already talked to our tree service guys, and they told me I could have a pile that is twice the size of what we had this year, so I should have a decent 50,000 BTU possibility, because this was about 21 to 25,000 BTUs we're able to produce per hour off of this pile, as long as it was active, and it stayed active all winter. So we were able to pull really good heat off of this pile. As you can see, it took a lot of work. We had to insulate, we had a lot of work to do to get all of this prep work done and get the pile in order to the point where we did not have to turn this. I have a ton of questions from everybody all the time. Did it stay hot? Did you have to turn it? Did you have to add urine to it? Did you have to do a nitrogen dump? And no, we didn't have to do anything to this because we added a ton of nitrogen and basically mixed a whole bunch of leaves up in the top and then covered it all with leaves, and we soaked it and we watered all those wood chips in good. And that is a key factor, is the moisture content. And as long as all that got active and started going, it was going to go. As long as we insulated it, it had a good 7 to 12 months burn time. So we got 7, and I'm not going to let it go much longer because I need to get all of this out of the way within the next month here, because we're going to use all of this for food around our property, and that'll be the next video. Like I said, we're going to take all of this and break it down and disperse it. So I really just wanted to show everybody firsthand. Sorry if I'm yelling, but the highway is really loud over there, and until the crops get up from the farmers, you guys are going to keep hearing that. So for another couple months here, it'll be kind of loud when it's windy out. So there is so much energy to be harvested from yard waste and farmyard waste. So I wanted to show the potential energy that is actually stored in material like this. It looks like a big brown pile, but there's a lot of heat and a lot of energy and a lot of potential for heating stored in all of that pile. Being able to take advantage of that and being able to utilize it and being able to really build upon it and use it to heat a greenhouse the entire winter is what I'm trying to share. And I hope everybody got a good understanding for this. And I wanted to check in at the end of the winter here just to show, hey, this thing did make it and it is still going. We had an absolutely freezing night last night. My hands are cold, my nose is running, and the pile is still hot. That is just absolutely amazing to me. I thought everybody else would find this pretty fascinating. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. And if you're a longtime subscriber, thank you very much for checking this out. And hopefully you guys got to follow this whole journey from start to finish on this pile. And we're not even done yet. There's a lot to do. I've got to take all of these leaf bags. We're going to compost all those separately. We've got a lot of compost coming from this. So we're going to build some fungal compost rings. We're going to build some kind of bacterial compost rings and compost more for our veggies and compost some for our actual perennials and woodier stuff like that, and we'll disperse everything. So I thank everybody for watching this video, and until next time.